President Trump will meet with Vladimir Putin next Friday to end the Ukraine war. He faces bitter opposition from the British Empire's captives in Europe, from Vladimir Zelensky, and from anti-war activists in the United States who continue to rave that Donald Trump can't possibly be God's instrument for peace. Last week, Trump attacked the modern British Empire on three fronts: ending the forever wars, ending Wall Street's control of the Federal Reserve, and ending the drug trade, the mind control and financing weapon the British have deployed for centuries. But you wouldn't know it from the media or what most people talk about. I'm Barbara Boyd, and I've had a ringside seat since 1971 when Nixon took the dollar off gold and unleashed 50 years of wars, financial bubbles, and cultural despair. Today, we'll detail the big developments in what I call Trump's war for peace, his war with the Federal Reserve and Wall Street, his declaration of a real drug war, and his dismantlement of the police state apparatus which has terrorized our population. These are the pillars of British imperial control of our country. If you've been watching our videos and you enjoy them, please like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have 3 political briefings a week, and we don't want you to miss the next one. Now, next Friday, Trump will meet Putin in Alaska to end the Ukraine war. The Europeans and Zelensky will do everything possible to sabotage that prospect, but it's clear that Trump and Putin have a plan to end the slaughter. Despite the naysayers, Donald Trump has already created more peace in the world than any president in history. By Friday, August 8th, Trump had brokered peace in long-frozen forever war battlefronts shaped by British imperial designs for centuries: Cambodia and Thailand, Rwanda and the Congo, India and Pakistan, Egypt and Ethiopia, Serbia and Kosovo, and as of this past Friday, Armenia and Azerbaijan. He did all of this over the course of 200 days, ending wars which had killed millions. Let's listen to Tulsi Gabbard on Trump ending the 35-year war between Armenia and Azerbaijan.
It's a truly historic day, and, under this president's leadership, this historic peace deal has been truly made into reality. When people actually go back and look at the history, you hit the high points there. These two countries have been in some form of conflict, sometimes very bloody, other times a very tense situation where conflict could spark out again at any moment for over 35 years. So for this event to happen today again, President Trump said in some of his remarks today that his greatest aspiration as president, is to bring about peace and stability. This is yet another example of his effective leadership that brought these two leaders together in a way that hasn't happened before. And I can tell you there was a lot of work that led to this moment. This wasn't something that just happened overnight. Again, when you look at over 35 years of conflict under President Trump's leadership, he encouraged and helped move along this ongoing negotiation between these two leaders and their countries that led to this truly historic and great event.
Now hear Trump yesterday on Ukraine and Russia, what's already been achieved and what's next.
That could have been a world war. I think if we didn't come, Ukraine-Russia would have ended up being a world war. And I stopped that. That stopped. Now the only question is, when is it going to be settled? And it could be very soon, but when is it going to be? But that would have been a world war. If I didn't come along with a very talented group of people sitting largely right here, but there are others not in the room that are very talented, I think Russia, Ukraine would have had a very, very high degree, I think even probably would have ended up being in a world war. I don't think people talk about that now because they don't see it anymore, but we've brought it down a long way. But that was getting to a point. When I first came in, I said, wow, this thing is really bad. And it could have escalated to a level that you people would have been very unhappy with.
Here's the core doctrine. Economic development heals war zones. In the Southern Caucasus, the Armenia-Azerbaijan peace is anchored by something called TRIP, the Trump Route to International Peace and Prosperity. That's a 20-mile economic development corridor managed by the United States and co-developed by Azerbaijan and Armenia. TRIP connects split territories, builds roads, rails, pipelines, and fiber optic cables linking the South Caucasus to Turkey, Europe, and beyond. Development first, peace follows, and that peace lasts. Now, concerning the Federal Reserve. On Thursday, Trump put Steve Miran, the chair of his Council on Economic Advisors, on the open seat at the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. For central banking as a control system, Miran is a nightmare. With Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Miran authored what he calls the Mar-a-Lago Accord, a program for tariffs, tax incentives, and massive capital investment to rewrite trade for Main Street, not Wall Street or the City of London. He also wrote a plan to reform the Fed itself. Here's his punch list from that plan. The president can fire Fed officials, 8-year terms, no revolving door between the Fed and the executive branch, regional Fed banks nationalized, no longer run by private banks. State governors appoint regional leaders. The New York Fed's control of the Fed for Wall Street, gone. Regional voices gain power. The street loses its chokehold. The Fed's mandate gets narrowed back to money supply, while elected government regains responsibility for economic policy as the Constitution intended. Contrast that with that imperial model. In 2019, at Jackson Hole, Mark Carney, the present Canadian leader, then the head of the Bank of England, proposed replacing the dollar with a digital world currency run by central banks and moving spender power away totally from elected governments to unelected committees of so-called experts. That vision, not incidentally, came to total life in the Biden administration. Meanwhile, Powell's Fed is hemorrhaging cash and paying banks not to lend, while delivering zero revenue to the Treasury, undercutting one of the Fed's favorite arguments for its permanence. It's presently losing billions of dollars. Now, all the stories I'm telling you in very short form probably raise all sorts of questions in your mind about where to go to get more details. We have a toolbox which gives you terrific historical background on the battles we find ourselves in. If you go to the toolbox at Promethean Action, you'll find two pamphlets which can start your journey down our road of discovery, both in terms of American system economics and the key battles between the British Empire and the United States. Now, concerning accountability and the deep state. On Friday, the third anniversary of the FBI's Mar-a-Lago raid, the DOJ opened a grand jury probe into New York AG Letitia James in Albany, examining potential criminal civil rights violations against Trump in her prosecutions and civil cases. At the same time, a different Department of Justice investigation concerning mortgage fraud was opened against both James and Adam Schiff. Another grand jury is authorized to examine Russiagate conspirators, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, James Clapper, Jim Comey, John Brennan, and others. Informed speculation points to Florida as the venue for that investigation. Whistleblowers are stepping forward with new, shocking information. One senior cyber expert found evidence that Clinton campaign vendors may have engineered the so-called Russian hack of the DNC computers themselves. His investigation was blocked by Obama-era intelligence officials. That is, a Clinton vendor seems to have been the person that hacked the DNC computers. Inside the FBI and DOJ, agents and lawyers tied to the January 6 investigations and the broader coup efforts are being fired. Accountability isn't a slogan anymore. It's a process currently underway. At the same time, the president authorized the U.S. military to treat drug cartels as terrorist entities, with authority to eliminate them domestically and abroad. The narcotics flood, now weaponized by fentanyl, has been an imperial instrument of cultural demoralization and financing for centuries. That pipeline is now being targeted, inclusive of the offshore money laundries which allow the cartels to function. See the pattern? The pillars of British imperial control: wars, The Fed and central banking, the drug trade, and their domestic enforcement arm in the rogue intelligence state are under direct, coordinated assault now by Donald Trump. And the biggest weapon in this war is the economic renaissance now fully underway. This past week, Apple announced major U.S. investments, including a manufacturing academy in Detroit. Energy Secretary Wright is accelerating nuclear build-out, and NASA Chief Sean Duffy is pushing the first nuclear reactor on the moon. A new world is emerging as the decadent old one is dismantled. Optimism and productive identity, the mindset of builders, is back. That's how you win a civilizational war. If you're tired of managed decline, stop spectating. Share this. Pressure your representatives to bar the lobbyists and get fully on board with President Trump's agenda. The midterms are coming up, and people don't fully understand what is being done because the media is dedicated to blinding you to it. Our decadent educational system isn't much help. To win this war, citizens must become citizens again, literate in their own history and in building their own future. The lights are turning on, but keeping them on involves something akin to a war mobilization of our minds and our imaginations. That's what the present moment demands. I'm Barbara Boyd. For 50 years, I chronicled the destruction of our republic. Today, I'm chronicling happily its rebirth. I'll see you again on Monday.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.